Let's try that again. Hello, good morning, it's CC. My name is Michael Wu. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Amber Group. Today, my sharing topic is financial services in the agent economy and how it will evolve, in my opinion, from centering around platforms to centering around autonomous agent-native operating systems. But before I start, I know given the date today, every big claim sounds a little bit suspicious. So let's stick to what's real, what's live, what's useful, what's already happening in financial services, what's becoming technologically possible, and what kind of companies will matter in this new era. So my view is that we are entering an AI agent-driven economy that will very soon surpass the legacy economy. And the financial services or finance will have to look very different in this new agent economy. For the last decade or so, finance, or fintechs mostly, competed on the interface layer, meaning they competed on better front end, better UX, better user acquisition channels, better onboarding experience, all kinds of better dashboards. But in the next decade, that will change. The real advantage will move below the interface layer onto the operating layer, to what I think will be agent-native operating systems that coordinate from user intents to product selection, to liquidity, to execution, to controls, and basically the entire service workflow end-to-end. In other words, finance is going to move from standalone platforms towards shared agent-native operating systems. And the analogy I often find the most useful for my audience is AWS. So if you think about it, before the likes of AWS and other cloud servers, when you had to run a website, it was to run a local server. You had to configure the servers yourself, run all the workloads locally, and all of that. And essentially, the likes of AWS and the cloud services, they abstracted that away. So post AWS, essentially now running a web page or running a web app is just build the app or build the website and run it on cloud. So that abstracted away not only the complexity of running web servers, but economically, they just coordinated resources much more efficiently. And usually, cloud servers are more reliable than your local servers in terms of uptime, in terms of all the security guardrails. They're better, and they make starting a web-based app or a web business a lot easier. I actually think without the likes of cloud servers or AWS, I don't think we get to the scale of internet economies today. And I think something similar is going to happen in finance. My thesis is that essentially in this agent-driven economy, financial services will also run on these shared agent-native operating stack, just like how web apps or web businesses run on shared cloud services today. And crypto, digital assets, crypto, whatever you call it, is naturally the economic rails embedded in these agent-native operating systems. So as a founder CEO of Amber, my ambition is never to apply AI onto yesterday's products. I want to build the financial stack for what comes next. So why is this shift happening now? The shift is happening now because three curves are intersecting. First, AI has moved from chatbots to workflow engines. 2 or 3 years ago, most people still interacted with the AI as a chatbot, right? Like the name Chat GPT suggested literally. But now it's all about AI agents and workflows. I mean, like many of us here today, probably, myself included, yesterday we all got our own locally replicated cloud code, didn't we? So things are moving this way. AI has already gone from just answering questions to actually doing end-to-end work. Specifically in finance, this means automated workflows in a lot of companies like ours are already reviewing onboarding docs, routing client requests, generating reports, risk memos, facilitating executions. And secondly, crypto or digital assets have matured from a narrative to now finally an infrastructure. I think for a long time, our industry sold crypto as a narrative or a thesis, a macro thesis, a generational wealth thesis, sometimes a cult thesis. But I think what finally matters now is more about the actual digital asset infrastructure. Because now we are finally, I think since the last 2 or 3 years, start to see digital asset rails being used for more mainstream financial functions, such as standardizing different assets and collaterals onto the same ledger, instant global transfers, 24/7 global settlements, stable coins, tokenized exposures for different assets, and so on. It's a big upgrade, honestly, in my opinion, that this is much better than the traditional financial rail in terms of the traditional financial rail was built with or around a lot of human constraints, or the limit market hours because people need to get off work, or the delayed settlements because there are routes of settlement process that remain required human interventions. Fragmented ledgers because different regulators, different jurisdictions want to keep them separate. Trapped collaterals, sometimes intentionally, sometimes technologically set up that way. And all the reconciliation work that are inefficient, ineffective, expensive, full of mistakes that happen due to all of that. So it's very natural to me that for AI agents and the upcoming agent economy, with all their autonomous workflows, crypto is naturally the much better rail for this economy. And third, I think financial institutions are also adapting, and therefore they're now demanding two things at once: speed and trust. Financial institutions now want more automation, but not at the cost of losing controls. Financial institutions now want more intelligence, but not at the cost of auditability. Financial institutions want more speed, but not at the cost of governance. So they now require both. It's no longer enough to just be fast but opaque. It's no longer enough to just be compliant but very slow. It's no longer enough to be intelligent but uncontrollable, unauditable, ungovernable. That will be the new operating standard in finance. Financial systems or financial players will be required to be highly automated, clearly governed, and auditable. So to make all of this more concrete, I use this model called the 4 layers of finance. And I will go through each layer one by one and share with you what I think they will look like in this agent economy. The first layer is distribution. Distribution is channels, licenses, branded platforms. These are the Binances, Coinbases, Upbits of the world. These are the license holders of Mika, VASP, whatever you call it in each country. I mean, we have those as well within Amber, for example, in Singapore, in Dubai, and all of that. So historically, the distribution layer has always been about funnel. They're about user acquisition funnels. They're about acquiring users, converting users, onboarding users, supporting users, and the distribution layer, the platforms will continue to do so. But I think increasingly, they will have even simpler, easier, and smarter conversion and monetization once they have the users, because of these shared operating structure that will do the remaining work. And that leads us to the second layer, the services layer. This is where the autonomous agent-native operating systems actually come to play. Services layer is where the actual financial services happen. This is if you run a market-making business, the liquidity provision mandates actually gets matched. This is if you run asset management, the products actually got selected and matched and risk managed. This is if you run a brokerage business, the products actually, or the brokerage orchestration actually happen. And again, I think this is where a lot of fintechs are still mistakenly thinking in terms of screens. They're still thinking about a feature, adding a feature, some UI tweak, a mobile app, click this button and that happens. But let me tell you, AI will very soon replace most of these UIs anyway. And the code is cheap nowadays. So the marginal cost of personalization for every user will very quickly trend towards zero. So the competition will become, can you actually seamlessly convert end-to-end from user intent to product selection, to pricing, to execution, to post-trade settlements, to reporting, all in one coherent workflow, and do that reliably, repeatably, and auditably. This, again, is about operating system. It's not about the UI. And a truly good agent-native operating core will naturally be able to offer much more personalized and optimized financial services to every user than any standalone platform or app can ever offer. This is where the new economy of scale happens. This is where the edge will compound for successful players in the new era. The next layer is the risk-taking layer, the trading layer. Because, this is also where, the degens, the market makers come in. In crypto, usually everyone is a bit of both. So in terms of principal risk-taking, from actual trading decisions, hedging and bearing the end P&L from hedging, position management, collateral management, different kind of risk management, AI here can improve the speed, the research, the execution, but the risk ownership still sits with the human. Because whether you trade manually by click your mouse or you trade through an agent, it's still gonna be you, the human or the humans behind, that bear the end P&L. So the risk ownership doesn't shift away with technology. The final layer is governance. This is where the compliance, legal control, policy enforcement, approvals, audit, reporting, and all of that come in. But this will be quite different as well in this new era. Because I think today a lot of fintechs, especially in crypto, I would say, still think about governance as a growth constraint. But I think in this new world, governance will become almost like a prerequisite for growth. Because if you think about it, in this agent-driven economy, in this agent-driven cycle of finance, trust itself is going to be in the architecture. What do I mean by that? If your financial services is not inherently auditable, is not traceable, is not reliable, is not governable, they cannot be trusted by the agents. The agents will naturally have guardrails against accessing financial services like that. And if you can't be trusted by the agents, you can't be trusted by the humans or the money actually behind those intent. So these are my 4 layers of finance: distribution, services, risk-taking, governance. And I do believe agents will transform all 4 layers, more or less. And if my model is at least directionally correct, then I think at least 2 conclusions follow. First, again, agent-native operating systems will have a vast advantage, and they will beat standalone products, they will beat standalone platforms. Because today's platforms, or at least each product, each function on the platform, is trying to solve one specific task. But an agent-native operating system does it from end to end. It's actually trying to coordinate tasks and converts user intent, highly personalized user intent, directly into complete results from these intent. Secondly, actually counterintuitively, especially for our industry, I think the control panels and the guardrails that slow down the services, that slow down the intelligence will be almost as important as the intelligence itself. Because if you go through institutional finance, you'll find most of the time, the most important question is often not how smart is the system we are adopting. It's rather, how can the risk be observed or traced? Does the system have audit trails? Can it be governed by certain policies? Or sometimes even simply, who can stop this? Who can stop this thing? And who takes accountability if this thing fails? So I do think going forward in finance, especially in highly automated finance, the best operating systems need to be both efficient, intelligent, without saying, and they need to be highly auditable and governable. And this is a sneak peek of how we are building the financial stack for the agent economy at Amber. First, again, we have our own distribution. We have our own license platform called Amber Premium. We use Amber Premium both as our distribution layer and, very importantly, as a proof case for our agent-native operating systems, which are the A suites at the bottom. Our A suites are actually system we use to run our businesses at scale. We use a system called AMM for our market-making business. We use a system called A-Fund for our asset management business. We use a system called A-Flow for our client trading business. And we try to build, or at least iterate, these operating systems as agent-native from day one because we build our agents that automate the workflows to operate them together. Again, today these are not fully polished. I don't claim that. But imagine when we are ready to open them up, then in our vision, it will become you, anyone. As long as you have your distribution, you have your users, your clients, you can run the same Amber-like financial services business, whether it's asset management, brokerage, market making, whatever. As long as you have clients, you have these flows, you have these client intents, you can use our shared infrastructure, the shared operating stack, to monetize them, just like web apps run on cloud servers. So to recap, I think we're moving from an interface economy to a workflow economy in finance. In the interface economy, again, because engineering used to be expensive, personalization was often impossible. So the old economy of scale comes from better interfaces that meet the largest overlapping user demand. So winning in the interface economy was about better front end, better UX, essentially better surface level convenience for users, or better top of funnel client acquisition, usually due to marketing, due to branding, or due to licensed monopolies. I think in the workflow economy, personalization will become the default option because, again, engineering will be cheap. And the leap from ideas to products became almost instant. So users will interact with financial services through agents and expect their intents to be converted into results end to end. In this kind of workflow economy, I think winning comes from actual better end-to-end workflow orchestration and the better policy-aware automation and better control, better auditability, and therefore better trustability. So with AI today, really code is cheap. And the leap from ideas to products is almost instant. Today, any team, almost any team, can vibe code and demo you some kind of AI agents for finance or for trading or financial automation. That is no longer the hard part. The harder part is whether you can show these workflows, these automated workflows that actually touches money, that actually has a large financial impact, are battle tested. They're institutional scale, they're repeatable, they're controllable, they're governable, especially under market stress and regulatory scrutiny. I think that would be a very different bar. And in my opinion, it's going to be a much healthier bar. Because finance, really, I mean, if you want to be a successful fintech going forward, it will no longer be about, like, is your app good? The question should become, is your system robust enough to coordinate user intent, the financial complexity, the risk management at scale, reliably, transferably, and accountably. So this is what great fintech should look like, and it will in this new era. So what does it mean for builders, for institutions, for policymakers? So if you're a builder, I do think it's time to stop optimizing for interfaces. It's time to put more energy into design better workflows that solve the entire problem reliably, at least in finance. And if you are in financial institution, I do think you will start to evaluate these automation, these workflows, on their policy reliability, on their resistance, on the stress. And if you're a policymaker, this is not the moment to be even more defensive. This is the moment, this is your chance to design standards that can allow innovation, but also leave room to actually hold innovators accountable. Because this takeover of the agent economy will happen anyway. We will all be better off positioning ourselves for this inevitable future. So let me close with this. Digital assets will become this new rail. Agents will automate most workflows, and the shared agent-native operating system will be the core infrastructure. Amber, this is our ambition. We want to build the financial stack for this upcoming agent economy, and I do enjoy every step on the journey towards that. Thank you, and we'll take any questions if we still have some time.
Yeah, we ran out of time to questions, but thank you for the talk. Really interesting topic.